Commander Eliza Raves straightened her crisp Navy uniform as the massive doors to the Confederation Central Chamber parted with glacial deliberation. After 6 months as Earth's representative, she still hadn't adjusted to the maddeningly slow pace of everything here. The chamber itself was an architectural marvel, a perfect dome stretching nearly a kilometer across, with concentric rings of seating accommodating the 37-member species of the Galactic Confederation. The representative from Sol System may now approach the primary speaking days, announced the Chamber Herald, a tall, willowy Altarian whose bioluminescent skin pulsed in formal patterns. Eliza strode forward, her footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. Some species tracked her with compound eyes, others with sensory tentacles, and still others with organs humans had no names for. The diversity would have been awe-inspiring if it weren't for the crushing uniformity of their bureaucratic mindset. Honored Council, she began, I come before you to request expedition of petition CR 7891E regarding emergency medical supply routes to the Ta City colonies. First speaker Voxful, a massive gelatinous entity who communicated through controlled vibrations, rippled in acknowledgement. The petition has been received and categorized. It will proceed to the Transportation Subcommittee for initial review, followed by health assessment, security clearance, and finally, allocation of resources. The estimated processing time is 42 standard cycles. 42 cycles. Elisa couldn't keep the edge from her voice. That's nearly 3 Earth months. The situation is urgent. They're experiencing an outbreak off. The process cannot be circumvented, Commander, interrupted Deputy Speaker Ulfner, her chitinous mandibles clicking in what Eliza had learned was disapproval. All member worlds agreed to these protocols upon joining. The Confederation has maintained peace among its members for 9,000 years through adherence to proper procedure. Eliza bit back her frustration. People are dying while we debate procedure. A murmur of discomfort rippled through the chamber. The Thkeri representative, a being resembling a crystalline starfish, illuminated in the pattern that indicated a desire to speak. The human perspective is understandably limited by their brief lifespans. 3 months seems significant to them. The chamber filled with the sound that passed for polite laughter among many species. Later, in the Earth Embassy, a modest structure compared to the sprawling compounds of older member races, Eliza paced before her staff. They don't get it, she fumed. Half the colony could be wiped out before the first committee even reviews our request. Dr. Adrian Kamal, her chief science officer, nodded grimly. It's culturally embedded. Most Confederation species evolved from herd, hive, or collective organisms. Consensus is hardwired into their genetics. Those that didn't, like the Vecturians, lived for millennia. Time means something different to them. Lieutenant Sophia Chung, tactical advisor, leaned forward. We've tried playing by their rules for 2 years now. Maybe it's time to show them how humans solve problems. Eliza stopped pacing. What are you suggesting? We've got 3 ships docked at the station. The supplies are available in our own warehouses or can be acquired through private channels. We could have everything Ta City needs in 5 days, not 3 months. That would violate at least 16 Confederation protocols, Dr. Kamal cautioned. Eliza stared out the viewport at the glittering expanse of Confederation Central, the massive space station that served as the seat of galactic governance. Thousands of ships moved in perfect, regulated patterns. Everything in its place, everything according to schedule. Get me a secure line to Earth Central, she said finally, and start drawing up resource requirements. If the Confederation won't move quickly enough to save human lives, we'll do it ourselves. Sophia smiled. They won't like it. No, Eliza agreed, but they might learn something about humanity. When the stakes are high enough, we don't wait for approval to do what's necessary. The orbital monitoring station above Proxima Centauri III hummed with activity as Dr. Marcus Chen studied the holographic projections with growing alarm. What had begun as a localized outbreak in New Jakarta one of the colony's agricultural hubs, had spread to 3 additional settlement clusters in just 11 days. "Show me the latest progression models," he instructed the station's eye. The projection shifted, displaying a time-lapse of red indicators spreading across the planet's northern continent like bloodstains on fabric. The AI's voice was clinically detached. At current transmission rates, 62% of the colony will be exposed within 14 Earth days. Mortality projections indicate 31% fatality rate among infected individuals. Marcus ran his hand through his salt and pepper hair. 8 million colonists, he murmured. "We're looking at over 1 million deaths if we can't contain this." The lab door hissed open as Dr. Lakshmi Patil entered, her face drawn with exhaustion. For the past 72 hours, the xenobiological research team had worked without rest, trying to understand the pathogen. "We've sequenced it," she announced, transferring data to the main display. "It's like nothing we've encountered before, probably mutated from something in the native ecosystem. The good news is that we've identified a theoretical treatment approach." Marcus studied the complex molecular models. "This synthesis looks complicated." "That's the problem," Lakshmi confirmed. "We need 7 distinct compounds. We have 2 in our pharmaceutical reserves. The others are scattered across Confederation space." She displayed a galactic map with 5 worlds highlighted: Zeta Reticuli, Procyon, Epsilon Indi, Tau Butis, and Altair. "Have you submitted the requests through Confederation channels?" 4 hours ago. The automated response estimates 6 standard months for approval. Marcus stared at her in disbelief. 6 months. That's standard procedure, Lakshmi finished bitterly. The request has to pass through 17 different committees. Each species gets to deliberate according to their own cultural norms. On the observation deck overlooking the colony's main settlement, Marcus watched the emergency shuttles transporting patients to the hastily established quarantine zones. Nightfall cast the scene in harsh shadows punctuated by the harsh blue of emergency lighting. His comm unit chimed with an incoming transmission from Confederation Central. "Dr. Chen," began the Vecturian official, whose name Marcus couldn't recall. Their elongated features showed what passed for sympathy in their species. "We have received your emergency classification request. I regret to inform you that under subsection 47C of the Medical Crisis Protocols, your situation does not qualify for expedited processing." Not qualify. Marcus struggled to maintain his composure. "We're projecting over 1 million deaths. The colony population represents less than 0.02% of total Confederation citizens," the official explained patiently, as though to a child. "The threshold for emergency reclassification is 0.001% of the galactic population being at immediate risk. So we need 5 times as many humans dying before you'll consider it urgent." The Vecturian's expression didn't change. The regulations were established to prevent favoritism among member worlds. "I'm sure you understand the importance of procedural consistency." After the transmission ended, Marcus stood in silence for several minutes. Below, medical drones crisscrossed the darkening sky, their lights forming constellations of human suffering. His comm unit chirped again. Commander Reyes's voice came through, tense with urgency. "Marcus, I've been briefed on the situation. I'm patching you through to a secure conference with Earth Central Command." "What good will that do?" "The Confederation won't budge." "We're not asking the Confederation anymore," Reyes replied. "We're assembling a task force. 7 ships, 7 worlds, all the components you need." "That would violate at least." "I know exactly how many regulations it violates," Reyes cut in. "The question is, are you willing to help us break the rules to save your people?" Marcus looked down at the colony he'd helped establish 8 years ago. At the homes and hospitals and schools. At the million lives hanging in the balance. "When do we start?" he asked. The conference room aboard the Earth diplomatic vessel Artemis buzzed with controlled urgency as holographic displays showed 7 distinct flight paths radiating from Confederation Central like spokes from a wheel. Dr. Marcus Chen studied the assembled team. a motley collection of scientists, diplomats, and military personnel who had been quietly summoned from various posts throughout Confederation space. "Let me be absolutely clear," Commander Rice began, her voice steady. "What we're proposing violates multiple Confederation protocols. Anyone who participates risks censure, loss of position, and possible criminal charges under interstellar law. If you wish to withdraw, now is the time." No one moved. "Good," Rice nodded. "Dr. Chen will brief you on the mission specifics." Marcus stepped forward, activating the central display. "We need 7 compounds to synthesize a cure for the Proxima Centauri pathogen. Each ship will target a different world." The display highlighted each destination as he spoke. "Captain Singh, you'll take the Swift Endeavor to Zeta Reticuli for the fungal enzyme. Dr. Yoshida, your team will extract mineral compounds from the Procyon system. Lieutenant Zhao, you'll negotiate with the Altarian Biochemical Consortium." As the assignments continued, Admiral Helena Winters, Earth's military liaison to the Confederation, entered the room. Her expression was grave. "We have a problem," she announced without preamble. "Confederation security has flagged unusual activity around our dock vessels. They're requesting maintenance schedules and crew manifests for all ships preparing for departure." A tense silence fell over the room. Everyone knew what this meant. The Confederation was already suspicious. "How much time do we have?" Rice asked. 24 hours at most before they implement a full review. After that, they'll place restrictions on all Earth vessels until the investigation concludes. Admiral Winters' tone was matter-of-fact. Standard procedure would tie up our ships for weeks. Marcus exchanged glances with Rice. They'd anticipated opposition, but not so quickly. "Then we accelerate," Rice decided. "All teams depart within 12 hours. We'll need to modify departure protocols. The diplomatic corps can create a diversion," offered Ambassador Quan, a veteran negotiator with decades of experience. "I'll schedule emergency consultations with multiple council members, create enough diplomatic noise to split their attention." Lieutenant Commander Rivera, a logistics specialist, spoke up. "We can file misleading flight plans, make it appear that ships are heading for Earth outposts for routine supply runs." The room erupted in coordinated activity as the teams dispersed to prepare for immediate departure. Marcus found himself working alongside Dr. Eliza Santos, a brilliant biochemist who would lead the Epsilon Indy expedition. "Do you think we'll get away with this?" she asked quietly, as they finalized the extraction protocols for a rare crystalline compound found only in Epsilon Indy's asteroid belt. "Honestly, no," Marcus replied. "The Confederation will figure it out eventually, but we don't need to get away with it. We just need enough time to collect the compounds and synthesize the cure before they stop us." 12 hours later, Marcus stood in the Artemis observation lounge, watching as 7 ships broke formation and accelerated away from Confederation Central, each taking a different vector. On the station behind them, alert indicators were already flashing as Confederation security registered the unauthorized departures. His comm unit activated with an incoming transmission from the Confederation Council. "This is Archminister Talora of the Ethics Council," announced a stern voice. "All Earth vessels are hereby ordered to return to dock immediately. Failure to comply will result in—" Marcus switched off the transmission and turned to Commander Rice. "They've noticed," he said unnecessarily. Rice nodded, her expression resolute. "Let them notice. By the time they convene their committees to decide what to do about it, our ships will have what we need. And after that, she said with a grim smile, we'll deal with the consequences, but we'll deal with them with 1 million more humans alive than there would have been otherwise." Captain Layla Nasser's hands tightened on the controls as the Hermes decelerated into the Kilmar system. The 4th planet, a swirling gas giant with 17 moons, loomed in the view screen. Their target, Kilmar IV, was a humid, foggy satellite rich with exotic flora, including the rare fungi essential for the Proxima Centauri cure. "We're being hailed," announced Communications Officer Park. "It's the Valerian Defense Authority." "Put them through," Layla ordered, straightening her uniform. The screen flickered, revealing a Valerian official. Their translucent, multifaceted eyes focused on Layla with unmistakable suspicion. "Earth Vessel Hermes *, your arrival is unscheduled. Our records show no approved visitation request. Explain your presence immediately." Layla launched into their prepared cover story. A scientific expedition rerouted due to instrument malfunction. The explanation sounded weak even to her own ears. The Valerian tilted their head, antennae twitching. "Your justification lacks credibility, Captain. I am required to report this intrusion to Confederation authorities." Before Layla could respond, the transmission was interrupted by a new signal. Trade Minister Kivril, a senior Valerian official, appeared on screen. "Captain Nasser, I will handle this matter personally," the minister announced. After the defense officer reluctantly signed off, Kivril leaned closer to the camera. "Speak plainly, human. Why are you really here?" Layla hesitated, then decided on honesty. "We need mycelium X42 for a medical emergency on Proxima Centauri II. The Confederation denied our expedited request. We came anyway." To her surprise, Kivril's skin flushed with colors that the translator identified as amusement. "You bypassed Confederation approval. How human of you." "Our people are dying," Layla stated simply. Kivril was silent for a moment. "I have 3 offspring who studied at your Mars University. They returned with great respect for human directness." The Valerian's colors shifted to a more serious pattern. "The fungi you seek is in a restricted ecological preserve. Landing there without permits would trigger automated security responses." Layla's hopes fell. "Then we failed." "I did not say that," Kivril replied. "I am forwarding coordinates to a research outpost. Arrive in 6 hours. A scientific team will be conducting routine sampling. They may accidentally leave specimens unattended during their midday meal break." "Why would you help us?" Layla asked, stunned. Kivril's skin rippled with a pattern the translator couldn't interpret. 3 years ago, my youngest offspring contracted a respiratory illness while studying on Mars. Your doctors treated them immediately. No committees, no waiting periods. When I inquired about payment procedures, the hospital administrator said something I never forgot. "We treat first and worry about paperwork later." The transmission ended, leaving Layla speechless. Similar scenarios played out across the galaxy as the human ships reached their destinations. On Theros Prime, Dr. Yoshida's team found an Aleutian security chief who accidentally left a storage facility unguarded for precisely 45 minutes. In the Tabutis system, a Meridian mining consortium provided unmarked containers of restricted minerals with no questions asked. Aboard the diplomatic vessel Artemis *, Commander Reyes monitored the incoming reports with growing astonishment. "They're helping us," she told Dr. Chen as another team reported unexpected assistance. "Not officially, not openly, but they're helping." "Why?" Marcus wondered. "They have nothing to gain and everything to lose." Admiral Winters, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. "Maybe they're tired of waiting for approval too." Reyes considered this. All these different species, all bound by the same bureaucratic system for thousands of years. What if some of them have been chafing under it just like us? Then we might be showing them another way, Marcus realized. Or, Admiral Winters cautioned, we might be undermining the very system that's kept peace for 9 millennia. The Council certainly thinks so. On the display, another urgent message flashed from Confederation Central. All Earth representatives were summoned for an emergency session of the Ethics Council. The diplomatic crisis was escalating. "Let it escalate," Rice said firmly. "Our ships are succeeding. That's all that matters now." The Grand Council chamber of the Confederation pulsed with tense energy as representatives from 37 species filled the tiered seating. Emergency lighting cast an ominous crimson glow, signifying a session of highest urgency, a configuration not seen in over 200 years. Ambassador Julia Chen, the highest-ranking human diplomat remaining at Confederation Central, stood alone at the speaker's dais. The formal isolation was intentional, a symbolic representation of Earth's current standing. From the Arch Council's elevated platform, Ambassador Talora of the Vecturians, tall, statuesque beings with iridescent skin who prided themselves on 9,000 years of unbroken legal tradition, addressed the assembly. This council is convened to address an unprecedented breach of Confederation protocol. Talora's melodic voice carried effortlessly through the chamber. 7 Earth vessels have violated direct orders, bypassed established procedures, and are currently conducting unauthorized operations on multiple member worlds. Holographic displays activated, showing the locations of each human ship. Several had already acquired their targets and were returning to rendezvous coordinates. We have received reports of local officials on these worlds providing assistance to these rogue vessels. Talora continued, genuine confusion in her ancient eyes. This suggests a coordinated effort to undermine the very foundation of our peaceful coexistence, the rules that bind us all equally. The chamber erupted in overlapping translations as representatives conferred with their delegations. Ambassador Chen stood silently, waiting for the formal accusations to conclude. Earth's actions constitute a clear violation of Articles 7, 12, 23, and 47 of the Confederation Charter, Talora declared. The Ethics Council formally moves to impose immediate sanctions, suspension of Earth's voting rights, a quarantine of all Earth vessels, and the recall of all human representatives until a full investigation can be conducted. The senior adjudicator, a Melosian whose species communicated through precise harmonic vibrations, signaled for Ambassador Chen to respond. Julia took a deep breath. At 42, she was young for her position, but she had spent her entire diplomatic career preparing for crisis, though perhaps not one of this magnitude. Honored representatives, she began, her voice steady. I will not dispute the technical violations of protocol that Earth stands accused of. They occurred, but I ask this council to consider why they occurred. She activated her own holographic display, showing the spreading infection on Proxima Centauri II. Real-time medical data scrolled alongside images of overflowing hospitals. This is happening now. Over 8,000 dead already, with projections exceeding 1 million if left unchecked. We requested emergency assistance and were told to wait 6 months for proper procedural review. Her voice hardened slightly. We chose not to wait while our people died. The Thracian representative, a being of living crystal, chimed in harmonic disagreement. The processes exist to ensure fairness. If we made exceptions for every perceived emergency. Perceived. Julia interrupted, breaking another protocol. I invite any member of this council to visit Proxima Centauri III and tell the families of the dead that their emergency was merely perceived. Talora's expression remained impassive. Emotional appeals do not justify the violation of our most sacred agreements. The consequences remain. Earth will be sanctioned until. A notification chimed, interrupting the Vecturian. The Dothraki representative, a species known for their absolute adherence to regulation, had requested immediate speaking privileges, an extremely rare occurrence. The council recognizes Representative Zkivash. The adjudicator announced, surprise evident even in their harmonics. The massive Dothraki rose, their armored exoskeleton gleaming. Before imposing sanctions, this council should be aware. Preliminary reports indicate the pathogen on Proxima Centauri III has molecular markers identical to early-stage Cascade Syndrome. A stunned silence fell over the chamber. Cascade Syndrome, a devastating pandemic that had wiped out 2 civilizations before the Confederation era, was among the most feared threats in known space. If confirmed, Zkivash continued gravely, this is not merely a human problem. It is a Confederation-wide concern of the highest order. Talora's composure faltered for the first time. We must convene the Pandemic Response Committee immediately to verify. Which would take another month, Ambassador Chen interjected quietly. Meanwhile, our ships are already returning with the cure components. The question before this council is simple. Will you punish those who acted to save lives, or will you help us prevent a galactic catastrophe? Dr. Marcus Chen maneuvered through the crowded laboratory aboard the medical station orbiting Proxima Centauri II. Dozens of scientists, human and alien alike, worked in orchestrated chaos, synthesizing the cure from the components gathered by the 7 ships. All 7 vessels had returned successfully, each with their precious cargo intact, despite the diplomatic firestorm raging at Confederation Central. Synthesis Batch 47 is showing 98.7% efficacy in simulations, reported Dr. Lakshmi Patel, her eyes rimmed with exhaustion. She hadn't slept in nearly 72 hours, but her hands remained steady as she calibrated the molecular assembler. The Zeta reticuli fungi provided the stability we needed, added Dr. Sorensen, examining the holographic model of the completed compound. Without it, the degradation rate would have been too high for practical application. Marcus nodded, aware of the irony. The component that had required the most blatant violation of Confederation protocols was proving to be the keystone of the entire cure. Production status, he asked. First batch of 50,000 doses complete, replied Lieutenant Chow, who had volunteered to coordinate logistics. Atmospheric dispersal units are prepped for the 3 largest population centers. Medical teams are deploying injector packs to outlying settlements. Marcus glanced at the real-time statistics displayed on the lab's main screen. The infection curve that had been climbing exponentially for weeks had plateaued over the last 24 hours, not from the cure, which was just beginning distribution, but from the emergency containment measures implemented with the suddenly abundant resources that had materialized once the Confederation recognized the Cascade Syndrome threat. His comm unit chimed with an encrypted signal from Confederation Central. Commander Rice's face appeared, the dark circles under her eyes matching his own. The Ethics Council session just adjourned, she reported without preamble. Ambassador Chen is a miracle worker. Earth's sanctions have been temporarily suspended pending the resolution of the health crisis. And after that? Marcus asked. Rice's expression was grim. We'll face consequences, but that's tomorrow's problem. I've uploaded all our research data to the Confederation Medical Database, Marcus told her. Complete synthesis protocols, treatment methodologies, everything. He paused. It wasn't just for transparency. We've confirmed reports of similar outbreaks beginning on Den of Vivi and in the Procyon colonies. The cascade is spreading, Rice concluded. Yes, but thanks to our actions, the Confederation already has the cure. They can deploy it immediately. No 6-month wait required. 12 hours later, Marcus stood in the observation dome of New Jakarta's Central Hospital. Below, the lights of the city sparkled in the dusk. Medical transports moved through the streets, distributing the cure to neighborhood clinics. The latest reports showed infection rates dropping sharply, with no new deaths in the past 6 hours. A soft chime announced a visitor. Marcus turned to find Heven, a Vecturian medical observer dispatched by the Confederation, entering the dome. The ethics violation hearings have been postponed indefinitely, Tigen announced without greeting, their voice carrying the characteristic melodic cadence of their species. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Why? The Pandemic Response Committee released their preliminary findings an hour ago, Tiven replied. A project that had the standard protocols been followed, the cascade would have spread to 17 systems before the first response could be authorized. The projected death toll would have exceeded 30 million. Tiven stepped forward to stand beside Marcus at the viewport. The statistical models are quite clear. Your unauthorized actions saved millions of lives beyond just your own colony. Will that matter to the Ethics Council? Marcus asked. Tiven was silent for a moment, their ancient eyes reflecting the city lights. Results often speak more eloquently than any defense, they finally said. particularly when the results involve millions of lives that would otherwise have been lost. For the first time in weeks, Marcus felt the knot of tension in his chest begin to loosen. To be clear, Tiven added, I find your species' disregard for procedure deeply unsettling. But today, I am grateful for it. 6 weeks after the Proxima Centauri crisis, Commander Eliza Rice found herself in an unfamiliar position, being welcomed into the central archives of the Confederation. The cavernous repository housed the accumulated knowledge of 37 species across 9 millennia of galactic history. Few humans had been granted access to its deeper sections. This way, Commander, guided Archivist Xeltor, a meridian whose crystalline form shimmered with ancestral memories. The Historical Analysis Committee has prepared their assessment. They proceeded through towering shelves of data crystals until reaching a circular chamber where representatives from 7 species waited. The designated reflection council that documented significant events in Confederation history. Commander Reyes intoned the Thracian chairperson, we have completed our preliminary cultural impact assessment of what is now being called the human intervention. Eliza nodded, maintaining the formal demeanor expected in these hallowed chambers, though her pulse quickened. This assessment would shape how the Confederation viewed humanity for generations. Our findings are unexpected, the Thracian continued. Initial projections suggested your actions would undermine confidence in Confederation protocols. Instead, we've documented a 32% increase in emergency response efficiency across 17 member worlds. Archivist Xeltor activated a holographic display showing statistical models across various sectors. Several systems have implemented what they're calling adaptive response protocols, essentially allowing local authorities to act before receiving full Confederation approval in certain crisis scenarios. Is that not concerning to the Council? Eliza asked carefully. The Dothrak representative, Zkivash, made the clicking sound that indicated amusement. It would have been, before the data became irrefutable. 43 outbreaks of cascade variants have been contained using your treatment protocols. Conservative estimates place the lives saved at 26 million. Additionally, added a Valerian analyst, we've observed something unprecedented in Confederation cultural records. Their translucent fingers manipulated the display to show communication patterns across various worlds. A new linguistic marker has emerged independently in 17 distinct languages. The display highlighted phrases in multiple alien scripts, all translated to the same essential meaning: do it the human way. Across multiple worlds, this phrase has come to signify taking direct action when circumstances demand it, explained the analyst. It began among medical response teams, but has spread to emergency services, disaster relief, and even some governmental functions. Eliza struggled to maintain her composure. And the Ethics Council? Surely they don't approve of this terminology. The Ethics Council remains divided, acknowledged the Thracian. However, even they cannot ignore that flexibility in certain protocols has saved millions of lives. As they exited the archives later, Eliza noticed something unusual. Junior staff members from various species nodded to her with what appeared to be respect, a stark contrast to the diplomatic isolation humans had faced just weeks earlier. Her comm unit chimed with a message from Ambassador Chen. Emergency response reforms passed preliminary vote. 17 species supported. Committee bypass procedures now official for Level 1 crisis. Outside the imposing archives building, Eliza paused on an observation platform overlooking the vast multi-level expanse of Confederation Central. Beings from dozens of worlds moved through the intricately designed pathways, a testament to cooperation across incredible diversity. A young Altarian diplomat approached, their bioluminescent patterns indicating deference and curiosity. Commander Reyes, I hope I'm not intruding, they began hesitantly. I'm coordinating a new crisis response initiative. Several of us were wondering if, that is, could Earth provide advisors on implementing these new protocols? I thought humans were still viewed as procedural risks, Eliza replied carefully. The Altarian's skin pulsed with what the translator identified as ironic amusement. That is precisely why we need your input. Sometimes, it seems, the greatest risk is waiting for approval when lives are at stake. As the Altarian departed, the laser realized something profound had shifted. Humanity hadn't just broken the rules. They had catalyzed an evolution in how an ancient, rigid system functioned, introducing an element it had lacked for millennia: urgency. 6 months after the Proxima Centauri crisis, the Grand Chamber of the Confederation stood transformed. The rigid concentric rings that had defined the space for millennia had been reconfigured into a more fluid arrangement, with adaptive seating that could shift to accommodate emergency sessions without the 2-day preparation previously required. Ambassador Julia Chen took her position at the newly designed Earth Delegation Station, no longer isolated but integrated among the other representatives. Today marked the formal adoption of the Rapid Response Protocols, a framework that would fundamentally alter how the Confederation handled crisis. First Speaker Vox Thol's massive form rippled with formal patterns as the session commenced. This council convenes to ratify the 13th Amendment to the Confederation Charter. Before the final vote, Archival Minister Zhou Kan has requested speaking privileges to provide historical context. Silence fell as the ancient Vecturian approached the central days. At over 700 years old, Zhou Kan had served as keeper of the Confederation's history for 3 centuries. Their words carried the weight of accumulated wisdom across millennia. In 9,000 years, Zhou Kan began, their melodic voice resonating through the chamber. The Confederation has amended its founding charter only 12 times. Each amendment marked a profound shift in our collective understanding. Holographic displays illuminated around the chamber, showing key moments in Confederation history. Today's amendment represents perhaps the most significant philosophical evolution since the Great Reconciliation of the 4th millennium. The elder Vecturian's gaze swept the chamber. For eons, we have valued process above outcome, believing that perfect procedure would inevitably produce perfect results. We were wrong. A murmur rippled through the assembly. To hear a Vecturian elder admit error was unprecedented. The humans exposed a blind spot in our thinking, that sometimes the greatest wisdom lies not in deliberation, but in decisive action. Zhou Kan turned toward the Earth delegation. Their methods were imperfect, even reckless by our standards. Yet they saved not only their own people but countless others across our shared stars. Ambassador Chen maintained her diplomatic composure, though her pulse quickened at this unexpected endorsement. I have studied humanity's history since their inclusion in our ranks, Zhou Kan continued. Their path to the stars was marked by both tremendous violence and extraordinary compassion. They have warred against themselves more than any species we have encountered, yet they have also displayed remarkable capacity for self-sacrifice. The elder raised their hands in the ancient gesture of synthesis, the bringing together of opposing truths. The rapid response protocols before us today represent neither a wholesale adoption of human impulsiveness nor a continuation of our excessive caution, but rather a synthesis. Decisive action within wise constraints. This is the gift humanity has given us, though they did not offer it gently. Laughter, or the various species equivalents, rippled through the chamber, breaking the solemnity of the moment. Even Julia Chen smiled. The vote that followed was not unanimous. Several elder species abstained, but the amendment passed with support from 29 of the 37 member worlds. The rapid response protocols became Confederation law. Later, at the ceremonial reception, Commander Rice found herself approached by Archival Minister Zhou Kan. Your species has accomplished something remarkable, the elder Vecturian observed. In just 6 months, you have changed patterns of thought that persisted for millennia. We didn't set out to change the Confederation, Rice replied honestly. We just wanted to save our people. Precisely. Zhou Kan's ancient eyes held a glimmer of what might have been amusement. You chose your objective and pursued it without waiting for our approval. In doing so, you taught beings far older than humanity a lesson we have forgotten, that rules exist to serve life, not the reverse. The elder gestured toward the mingling delegates, where representatives from dozens of worlds conversed with new energy and purpose. I have a prediction, Commander. Future historians will divide Confederation history into two eras, before and after humanity showed us when not to wait for approval.